Mama, Mama, Isabella, come quickly. Isabella, something is wrong. Lizzie's voice cut through the noise of Okoko Market. Vendors froze mid-sale, baskets of dried fish wobbled, and curious shoppers stopped to watch the commotion. Mama Isabella, who was arranging fish at her stall, froze, her heart skipping a beat. What happened, Lizzie? What's wrong with my daughter? I don't know, Mama. She's at the salon. She's not herself, Lizzie gasped, panic in her eyes as she ran toward her mother. Her grip on Mama Isabella's hand was desperate, yet behind the fear, a small flicker of satisfaction danced in her eyes, something no one else could see. Mama Isabella dropped her basket and followed Lizzie, pushing through the crowded market. When they arrived at the small salon, her heart sank. There in the middle of the salon was Isabella, her daughter, trembling, eyes wide. Mumbling incomprehensibly, she tried to pull away from the stylist, her hands flailing as if something inside her had snapped. The room went silent except for her cries. "Oh my God, my child," Mama Isabella cried, rushing to hold her. Her hands shook as she tried to steady Isabella. "Tomorrow is your wedding. How could this happen?" Lizzie fell to her knees beside them, holding Isabella's hand. "Mama, I don't understand. She was just trying something at the salon. And then this." Her voice trembled, hiding the dark thought behind it, the jealousy that had been quietly growing inside her for months. Isabella's life until now had been simple, yet full of warmth. At 23, she spent her days helping her mother sell dry fish at Okoko Market. Sometimes she sold perfumes, oil, and to customers who came by the stall, arranging the bottles neatly and helping her mother package fish. Life was honest and hardworking, but Isabella carried herself with a charm that made people naturally drawn to her. Richard, a kind and gentle young man, had noticed her weeks ago. He would stop by under the pretense of buying fish or checking on the market, but he always found himself looking for Isabella. There was a quiet connection between them, soft smiles, small gestures, lingering glances, subtle yet meaningful. Lizzie, Isabella's best friend, watched all this unfold in the market long before the salon incident. She was wealthy, a successful hair madam, and lived in comfort thanks to her mother. But no amount of money or success could hide her growing envy everywhere they went. Men admired Isabella's beauty and charm. Even Richard, the man Lizzie secretly wanted for herself, seemed drawn to Isabella's smile, her innocence, her grace. Why does she get everything? Lizzie thought bitterly. Why does he notice her and not me? Her jealousy simmered quietly, growing into a dangerous plan. A small act, a gift, a wig, a careful step would be enough to start her scheme. Lizzie glanced at Isabella, still trembling in her mother's arms, as she pretended to care for Isabella. In reality, the plan she had been nurturing for months was moving forward. She imagined the luxurious wig she would buy for Isabella, silky, flawless, perfect, and smiled just slightly. To everyone else, she was the caring best friend. To herself, she was already plotting the moment when she could take Richard for herself. The market buzzed with whispers and curiosity, but Lizzie's mind was elsewhere. Somewhere deep inside, a storm was brewing, one that would test friendship, love, and loyalty. Isabella had no idea what was coming, and neither did. Worried but unaware of the dark currents beneath the calm Richard, ever gentle, visited the market more often. Sometimes he would stop by just to see Isabella. Their smiles lingered a little longer. Their conversations, though brief, carried the warmth of something unspoken. The market around them bustled with life, women bargaining over fish, men shouting prices. Yet for Isabella and Richard, time seemed to slow in these small, tender moments. But Lizzie noticed everything, every glance Richard gave Isabella, every small laugh, every compliment from men in the market. It twisted like fire in her chest. She had everything: wealth, a successful hair shop, a loving mother. Yet none of it mattered compared to the one thing she wanted. Richard, how can he care about her so much? She thought bitterly. She's just a market girl, and yet he can't stop looking at her. The envy that had quietly simmered over months now turned into a plan. A careful, cunning plan that would start with a simple act, a gift. Lizzie spent days in her hair shop, fingering luxurious wigs and hair extensions, thinking about the perfect one. She wanted something Isabella would love, something she would wear proudly on her wedding day. But hidden in her intentions was a dark purpose, this one, she murmured, touching a silky, flawless wig. She'll never suspect, she'll think it's just a gift from her best friend. With the wig carefully packed, Lizzie smiled to herself. To the world, she was thoughtful, kind, and caring. But inside, she was already picturing how this small gift could start to unravel everything. Isabella had especially Richard's attention. Meanwhile, Isabella had no idea. She helped her mother package fish, arrange perfumes, and greeted customers with her usual gentle charm. Her days were simple, innocent, filled with the kind of joy that drew people to her naturally. Richard would visit, smile at her, maybe steal a small compliment or offer help, and each time, Isabella's heart fluttered. She felt safe with him, happy in the simplicity of these moments. She had no inkling that Lizzie, her best friend for life, was watching every interaction with growing envy. Finally, Lizzie chose the moment. She handed Isabella the gift bag one sunny afternoon at the market. Her smile warm, her tone perfect. "Bella, I saw this wig in the market, and I thought of you. I just knew it would look perfect for your wedding day with Richard. I wanted to give it to you." Isabella's eyes lit up. "For me? Really, Lizzie? Oh, thank you. You're the best." She hugged her friend tightly, genuinely touched, of course. "You deserve only the best," Lizzie said, forcing her smile. Inside, her mind raced. Soon, you'll see, this is just the beginning." Isabella examined the wig with delight, completely unaware of the storm Lizzie was quietly setting in motion. As Isabella admired the luxurious hair, Lizzie watched her carefully, a subtle smile playing on her lips. She had planted the seed, a small, seemingly innocent gift that would eventually shatter friendships, love, and trust. Somewhere in the crowded market, Richard's gaze lingered on Isabella, unknowing that the first thread of jealousy had been pulled, setting off a chain reaction that no one could stop. What would happen when Isabella wore it? Lizzie thought, her mind already racing ahead. When he sees her with this, it will all begin. The sun poured through the small windows of the salon, glinting off the mirrors and shining on Isabella's radiant face. She could hardly contain her excitement. Her wedding was only a month away, and the luxurious wig that Lizzie had gifted her seemed perfect. "This is so beautiful, Lizzie," Isabella exclaimed, holding the silky hair in her hands. "I can't believe you thought of me. You're really the best friend anyone could ask for." Lizzie smiled, a carefully measured expression that hid the storm brewing in her mind, of course. "Bella, you deserve only the best. I just want your wedding day to be perfect." No one watching would suspect that behind Lizzie's warm words, a seed of envy had taken root months ago, and now, that seed was beginning to grow. The stylist carefully began installing the wig, clipping strands into place, making sure everything looked flawless. Isabella watched in the mirror, delighted at how glamorous she looked. She laughed softly, feeling a thrill she hadn't felt in months. But then, a sudden dizziness swept over her. She blinked rapidly, trying to focus, but the room seemed to spin. Her hands trembled as she reached for the chair, her heart pounding in her chest. Lizzie's eyes flicked toward her friend, a shadow of anticipation hidden beneath the surface. She pretended to worry, reaching out as Isabella's legs began to wobble. "Isabella, are you okay?" Lizzie asked, her voice full of concern. But the thought running through her mind was far darker soon. "Richard will be mine within moments." Isabella's body stiffened. She fell forward, screaming incoherently as the stylist and onlookers tried to hold her. The wig slipped slightly, but the luxurious hair caught the light as if mocking the chaos unfolding. From the market, Lizzie had already run to fetch Mama Isabella. Now she burst into the salon shouting, "Mama, Mama, come quickly. Isabella, Mama." Isabella's eyes widened as she saw her daughter trembling and screaming, being held by the stylist and a few patrons. Her heart pounded with fear. "Oh my God. My daughter, tomorrow is your wedding. How could this happen?" She pushed through the crowd, pulling Isabella into her arms. What is happening to you?" "My child." Isabella's mind was a fog of confusion and terror. She could barely speak, barely stand, but her love for Richard, her innocence, and her trust in Everyone around her were being challenged in ways she had never imagined. Lizzie fell to her knees beside her friend, pretending to weep, holding Isabella's hand. "Oh, Bella, my best friend, I don't understand, Her voice trembled with fake worry, but inside she smiled ever so slightly. Months of jealousy, planning, and envy had begun to bear fruit. The perfect gift the wig had started the chain reaction. Soon, she thought, Richard would be within her reach, and Isabella would no longer stand in her way. The salon buzzed with panic. Patrons prayed quietly, holding Isabella as she writhed and screamed. Mama Isabella's tears fell freely, helpless against the sudden calamity, and through it all, Lizzie's mind raced. This was only the beginning. Her plan was in motion, and the consequences would reach far beyond this moment, threatening friendship, love, and sanity itself. Would Richard see the truth? Lizzie wondered silently. Would Isabella recover, or would everything fall into my hands as I planned the market? The salon and the streets of Lagos held their breath as the storm quietly gathered strength. The sun was high over Lagos, but the air around Okoko Market felt heavy, as if the city itself held its breath. Isabella sat in her room, the wig still perched perfectly on her head, but her hands trembled uncontrollably. Her thoughts were a blur. Simple things: arranging fish, helping her mother. Greeting Richard now seemed impossible. Her body betrayed her. She could feel a strange heat in her head, dizziness twisting through her chest. Every sound, every movement around her felt amplified. She wanted to call Richard, to reach for the comfort she always felt in his presence. But even thinking became a battle. Meanwhile, Lizzie watched from a distance. She had orchestrated the perfect moment, a gift of luxury. A wig Isabella could not resist. And now the aftermath, it's working, she whispered to herself. Soon, Richard will be mine. She won't get him, not after this. Lizzie began showing a new level of attention to Richard. She visited his office under the pretense of concern, cooked meals for him, and found subtle ways to insert herself into his daily life. Each action was calculated to make Richard notice her, while Isabella, incapacitated by her mysterious illness, could do nothing. Word spread quickly through Okoko Market. Shoppers whispered and gasped as Mama Isabella tried to calm her daughter. My child, tomorrow is your wedding. How could this happen? Richard arrived at the market, alerted by the gossip. His face went pale when he saw Isabella in the arms of concerned patrons. Trembling and incoherent, he rushed to her side, calling her name. Isabella, what's happening? Are you okay? Isabella tried to reach for him, her mind foggy, but she could barely move. Lizzie, pretending concerned, hovered close, whispering soothing words while secretly measuring how far she could push her advantage. Days passed, and Isabella's condition did not improve. She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital under her mother's care. The cost was high, but Mama Isabella refused to leave her daughter's side. Richard visited regularly, bringing flowers, holding her hand, whispering words of comfort. Yet, Lizzie's subtle manipulations were already working. She ensured Richard heard about every minor mishap, every delay, and every expense, all while portraying herself as the devoted, caring friend in the shadows. She began planning the next step. Love medicine, whispered words, small temptations, all aimed to sever the bond between Richard and Isabella. Isabella, lying in her hospital bed, still carried the baby growing inside her. Richard's visits were the only anchor in the storm of confusion and betrayal. Lizzie's smile was hidden from the world, but she knew the truth. The battle is just beginning, and soon everyone will see who really controls love, friendship, and fate. Somewhere deep inside, Isabella's innocence and strength were quietly waiting. But would it be enough to survive the storm? Lizzie had unleashed. The psychiatric hospital was quiet, except for the distant hum of air conditioners and the occasional clatter of trays. Isabella lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts a tangled mess. The baby she carried was the only thing keeping her grounded. Yet each day felt heavier than the last. Richard still visited, bringing flowers and soft words. He was patient, kind, and loving, everything Isabella had hoped for. But he had no idea that Lizzie's plan was escalating. that every word he heard, every small act, had been carefully twisted to weaken his trust and love for Isabella. Lizzie moved like a shadow around Richard's life. She cooked meals, offered small favors, and whispered just enough to make him doubt Isabella's ability to care for him or their future. Then came the final, sinister step, love medicine. A few carefully spiced meals later, Richard's heart began to change. Subtle at first, his thoughts of Isabella shifted. He started feeling drawn to Lizzie, in ways he never had before, ignoring the woman who had carried his child, who had always loved him genuinely. Lizzie's plan was working perfectly. Months of scheming, jealousy, and quiet manipulation had brought her closer to Richard than she had ever dreamed. The hospital could not keep Isabella forever. Her mother's funds were running low, and the hospital insisted on discharge. But Isabella could not go home, not with Lizzie's interference and Richard's confused feelings. Once released, she wandered the streets of Lagos, lost and vulnerable. She had no money, no friends, and no one to turn to except her mother, who was struggling herself. The bustling city that had once felt alive now seemed indifferent, almost hostile. Isabella's cries for help echoed in the alleyways, her body tired, her mind weary, but she held on to her child. She refused to give up completely, even as the world around her seemed to crumble. Richard, under Lizzie's influence, began ignoring the warnings of friends and family. He had been poisoned not just by her love medicine, but by her cunning manipulation. He no longer noticed Isabella's absence, her suffering, or her loyalty in the crowded streets of Lagos. Isabella carried her baby, alone and struggling. Lizzie's victory seemed nearly complete, but somewhere in the shadows, fate quietly waited. Would justice find its way? Would love survive the betrayal? The storm was far from over. The streets of Lagos were alive, with the usual chaos, hawkers calling out their wares, cars honking, children running between stalls. Yet for Isabella, the world had become a cold, indifferent place. She clutched her growing belly, her body weak from hunger and exhaustion. Every step was painful, but she had no choice. Mama Isabella had tried to help, but with her own frailty and the financial strain of the hospital bills, she could do little. The bustling market that had once been full of laughter now felt like a prison of desperation. It happened on a hot, crowded afternoon. Isabella's labor pains struck suddenly. No doctor, no nurse, only the rough concrete and the distant murmur of city life. Passers-by tried to help, but there was nothing anyone could do except offer blankets and water. Hours passed in struggle and fear. Finally, with a cry that cut through the city noise, Isabella gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Relief washed over her, but it was mingled with despair. She had no home, no resources, and no man to protect her. Her only anchor in the world was the tiny life she held close to her heart. Meanwhile, Richard, under the effect of Lizzie's love medicine, had begun ignoring Isabella's absence entirely. Lizzie moved closer to him, playing the devoted friend. Always at the right place at the right time. She whispered, "I've always cared for you. I've always been here." And slowly, Richard's heart bent toward her influence. Richard's friends noticed the change, but Lizzie's careful charm and the lingering effect of the love potion made them hesitate. Even Richard himself felt conflicted, though he could not explain why his thoughts had shifted for a moment. Lizzie savored her apparent triumph. Isabella was on the streets, alone and struggling. Richard, the man she wanted for herself, was now drawn to her. Every subtle glance and whispered word reinforced her control. But life has a way of turning the tide. Even when it seems hopeless, the streets of Lagos, with all their chaos, would soon hold the key to Isabella's salvation. Isabella, exhausted, held her newborn closer. Her heart ached for Richard, for the life she had lost, and for the betrayal she could never have imagined. Somewhere, unseen and quiet, a force began to stir. The love that Lizzie had stolen, the life she thought she controlled, was not yet finished. Would Isabella find a way back? Could love survive manipulation, madness, and betrayal? The city continued to hum, indifferent yet ready to witness a reckoning that would change everything. The streets were noisy that evening, cars honking, traders shouting, creatures raising their voices through old speakers. But in the middle of it all walked a woman. People whispered about her clothes torn, her hair wild. It was Isabella. Her madness had worsened after she was thrown out of the psychiatric hospital. No one cared anymore, not even Richard, who was under Lizzie's spell, or Lizzie herself, who now flaunted her fake happiness. Only Isabella's aging mother still prayed, still hoped that her daughter would one day come back to her senses. But God was not silent one afternoon. A young pastor walked by where Isabella usually wandered. He stopped suddenly, his eyes fixed on her. Something deep in his spirit stirred. "This is not an ordinary madness," he said, quietly to the people. "Watching, there's a hand of wickedness. Behind this woman's pain." He walked up to Isabella slowly. She was mumbling, holding her head, whispering words no one could understand. When the pastor stretched out his hand and began to pray, Isabella screamed so loud that everyone nearby stopped what they were doing. "She's reacting," someone shouted. "Pastor, pray harder," another cried. The pastor's voice grew stronger. "Every evil hand behind this woman's tears, every jealous spirit that turned her life upside down, I command you go back to the sender." As he prayed, Isabella fell to the ground, trembling. Her body went still, then calm. When she opened her eyes, there was peace, real peace for the first time in months. The madness had left her across the city. Lizzie sat in her expensive apartment with Richard. They were eating dinner, laughing. At least she was laughing. Richard sat quiet, confused, like something in his heart wasn't right. Lizzie noticed and smiled seductively. "Baby, are you okay? You've been quiet since morning." Before Richard could reply, Lizzie suddenly screamed, grabbing her head. The same madness that left Isabella had returned, but this time with greater force. Her eyes rolled back. She fell off her chair, shouting, "No! No! It's burning me. Isabella, leave me alone." Richard jumped back in shock. "Lizzie, what's wrong with you?" But Lizzie kept screaming and confessing uncontrollably. "I did it. I did everything. I gave her the wig, the cursed wig. I mixed it. I destroyed her because of you. I put the love charm in your food. I made you forget her." Her voice broke into cries as she hit the floor, trembling violently. Richard felt something shift inside him, like a fog clearing from his mind. His eyes widened as memories returned. Isabella's smile, their laughter. Richard's heart pounded as he ran through the streets, searching for Isabella. His mind replayed Lizzie's confession, every evil thing she had done, every lie she had told. "What have I done?" he whispered. Tears burned in his eyes. He finally saw Isabella sitting quietly under a small shed, her eyes clear and full of tears. She looked lost, thin, and fragile, but peaceful. The madness was gone. "Isabella," Richard called softly. She looked up. Her lips trembled when she saw him. "Richard," he fell to his knees before her, crying uncontrollably, "Forgive me. Isabella, I was blind. I didn't know what she did. I didn't know she hurt you. I let her come between us." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Richard, I suffered. I cried. I begged God to take the pain away, but he has already fought for me. I don't hate you. I just wish you had trusted me." Richard took her hands, kissed them, and wept. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. You and our child are all I have." She nodded slowly, her tears falling. "Let's go home." That same night, Lizzie's madness worsened. Her body burned with the same torment she once wished upon her friend. Her once beautiful shop was empty, her hair disheveled. Her laughter twisted when she heard that Isabella had regained her sanity. She staggered to the street where Isabella lived. Barefoot and shaken, she fell before Isabella, crying bitterly, "Isabella, forgive me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was jealous. I couldn't stand how everyone loved you, how Richard loved you. I'm sorry. Please." Isabella stepped back, tears streaming down her face. "Lizzie," she said softly, "why did you do this to me? I thought you were my sister. I shared everything with you. You were my best friend." Lizzie sobbed louder, holding Isabella's feet. "Please, I was blinded by envy. Please forgive me, I beg you." Isabella bent down, her heart heavy. "Lizzie, I forgive you, but forgiveness can't erase what you planted. God has already judged this matter." Lizzie screamed, "No, no," before collapsing again, her madness growing worse days later. Word spread through the market and the streets. "Lizzie, The rich hair vendor had lost her mind, people whispered. So it's true. She was the one who did evil to her best friend. The same pastor who prayed for Isabella shook his head and said, "Whatever a person sows, they shall surely reap. Evil may hide for a while, but truth will always find its way." Weeks later, Isabella and Richard stood together in their luxurious apartment, their baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. The wedding that never happened before was finally taking place. France. Family and neighbors gathered not to gossip this time, but to rejoice. Mama Isabella, with tears of joy, whispered prayers of thanks as the sun set over the Lagos sky. Isabella looked at her husband and smiled softly. "Not every smiling friend wishes you well," she said. "But God will always expose the hidden enemy." Richard held her hand tightly. "And I will never let anything come between us again." Together, they walked into their new beginning stronger, wiser, and grateful. The people you call your best friends can sometimes be the ones planning your downfall, but evil never wins truth, and love always find their way back. So I want to use this opportunity to tell you that Jesus loves you, and he said he's coming again. Me and you don't. No one is coming. He can come at any time we did not expect. It is now, that is not yet come, that we have the opportunity and the grace to repent and give our life to him now that we are alive. Give your life to him. Today he's waiting. No matter how far you are gone with your sin, he will still forgive you. Don't miss this opportunity today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share so you don't miss our next stories.